Leslie.
And it's Justin.
And we're back with Business and Tech for your future, helping you find meaning, motivation, and mentorship. So our guest we're going to introduce you to today is Ruben Taylor. He has a really unique path for how he got where he's at today. He's been very successful. In high school, he taught himself a lot about technology, so much so that when he went into computer science as an undergrad, he felt like it was a little bit of a waste of his time and his money, and so he is a self-taught man. So we're excited to read you a little bit more about his bio.
Ruben is a software technologist and business owner. He has over 20 years of industry experience designing and delivering cutting-edge technology strategies. He has years of experience in information security. He has served as a Chief Information Technology Officer at John L. Scott Real Estate. He has managed the on-premise data center operations, support staff, business intelligence, fintech, and software engineering teams. He has designed and implemented mobile app solutions and new technology platforms, which have been rated third on the Real Trends website rankings for all real estate websites. We're honored to introduce Ruben Taylor. Hey, Ruben Taylor, how are you doing?
Doing well. How about yourself?
Great. We're excited to have you on the show today. Leslie, any words from?
Just good to meet you. Thanks for being here.
Not a problem.
All right. So we're just going to jump right into this really quick and start asking you. So can you tell us about your current role right now, what you're doing? I know you do a lot of stuff, but can you kind of go into that a little bit?
Yeah, that's a good question. I do a lot of stuff. So I have my own software company. I'm the chief architect and owner of Escalade Software, kind of out of the Seattle area. And so I kind of work on a myriad of services for businesses ranging from kind of designing new products to building security systems to, even forensic software and data recovery to just day-to-day general consultation for software engineering. Also do a lot of performance analysis of production systems. If a company has a problem with performance issues, usually, I'm the one that gets pulled in to see exactly what is the root cause of a given performance problem that they're seeing in production.
And what lured you into technology in the first place?
What lured me? It's a good question. I think the big thing is my curiosity. I was always kind of, as a kid, taking things apart and seeing how they work, and a lot of times destructively, and my parents got irritated with taking apart toys when I just got them, because I'm like, what makes this thing tick? And with technology, there's plenty of that. There's just, it's never ending with all the things you can do and all the things that you can kind of, take apart and look at and understand kind of what makes it tick. And I think that's kind of really what got me interested in technology. A lot of things pushed me into software, and that was something that I thought I would always be in the hardware side, because I was really enjoying hardware and like networking and, and building computers and diagnosing computers. And so when it came down to, in the career field, when I started kind of looking at jobs, everything kind of pushed me back into software, which was something that I always had a passion for.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, software engineering and software in general. I know a lot of people have gone into that field, so it's been pretty big. Seems like computer science is becoming a really big and growing field, and it seems to be a hot job now whenever I'm looking at different things. Obviously, the certs are important as well, but it seems like software is definitely a growing field as well, programming and everything in there as well. So what are some things that kind of help you to become successful in this field? Can you go over some of that, a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the big things were, I think having is kind of curiosity, like I was saying earlier, and kind of a passion for learning. So there's plenty of, like I said, it's limitless the amount of things you can kind of learn in the technology field. And I think, that drive and passion to kind of learn and understand something really helped me out, as well as go and get some certs. Like I remember as a young age, I think when I was about 18 or 19, I got my A+ certification, which could help me into into the hardware side of the house. And then I moved into working at CompUSA at a young age, to working on computers, to repairing them. And as time went on, that kind of helped out. Then I was eventually going to get some other certifications regarding engineering and CSE, as well as eventually CISSP, which helped me a lot in the security side. And so that was something that really, I think, helped me kind of move forward, as well as just some great opportunities. I was really lucky and blessed to have some just amazing opportunities, and working with some great minds that really helped me elevate my skills and ability.
So if you were going to talk to someone just starting out right now, What advice would you give them? Where should they start?
That's a good question. It's in the software side, there's so much. And I think it's, I mentor a lot of folks to get them into software engineering. And I know it's overwhelming at times. I know I'm working with one friend of mine right now who's really, he looks at me, he calls me up and says, hey man, there's just, what about this technology over here? What about this? Because there's just so much. When I started out 25 years ago, 30 years ago, it was something that I was kind of lucky to have very little options. You really, you write C, you can do C++, there's Pascal, there's different languages you could use and different frameworks, but there wasn't a whole lot. Like now, whole web dev is a whole separate field, right? Then you got the security side, you got database. There's just so much out there. And I think, that it's easy to get overwhelmed with looking at software and realizing, man, I got to learn so much. And I think you don't really need to learn so much. Just focus on vertical you're interested in. You think you'd be good. So learning a language. So say it's C#, C++, Java, JavaScript, whatever it is, right? Picking a language, picking a framework, and jumping in with both feet and learning. I think that's probably the best thing you can do going forward. Otherwise, if you try to look at everything, you're going to be distracted and it's going to be overwhelming.
Great advice, because I know I'm just getting into it. I have a bunch of friends who are just looking into wanting to change their careers or getting into a career, and it is a lot to think about. So that's helpful.
It is. It's very scary and overwhelming. And I think, if you can just focus on one thing, and I think it'll help you just realizing, taking those small bites, small chunks, that it's obtainable, that you'll realize as you learn one language, you realize that the other languages are very similar. They share 80-90% a lot of times with the other languages. And so a lot of it's just coming down to syntax and framework. And so if you understand those kind of understanding one language gives you that foundation to help you learn others.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great advice and great the way you explain. I know a lot of people that have gotten into different programming languages, and I feel like that the same thought process. Like they learn one, and it feels like they start getting into other ones as well. So I've just seen that throughout a lot of different people I've talked to. So that's pretty amazing in itself. So can you kind of give us some example of some projects you've done in this field, like really good ones that you kind of go over that you're allowed to talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. There's some I'm not allowed to talk about, but yes, we'll definitely go through some of those. So, I mean, in software engineering, it's kind of a wonderful field. There's a variety of different interesting projects you can work on. I know, talk to some folks, and I know when I was young, when I was starting out, why I was afraid to go into software was because I had this image of, somebody sitting in front of instead of a cubicle or an office with no window and staring at lines and lines of code all day, every day. And, and that's something that I just didn't want. That was not me. But as I kind of got into it, I realized that's not really the case. There's a lot of creativity involved. There's just a lot of just exciting things you can do. And that was something that, I kind of dived into later on and realized that, nothing to be scared of. So for some of those things, like I went from working on mobile applications to IoT devices to writing forensic software. So, I mean, some of the things I did was patch management software. I wrote some, patch management software for a large company that does remediation and mitigation. So force kicking people off a network, right, if they're not compliant, to building some cryptographic providers and HSMs. I built an operating system and file system for smart cards for one company, which was kind of a fun and exciting project to work on. Mobile applications for Android and iOS, built and designed a spatial indexing system. I built something, a self-patch vulnerability that I did that was kind of fun. We had a vulnerability that we had in a product. And so it was like, well, I can build the vulnerability, execute remote code. What if I made the code actually run the patch? So that was something that I did, was kind of a little research project for one of the big companies. But yeah, there's a lot of different projects I've worked on over the years.
Yeah, that's amazing. And is there any projects that you're currently looking to work on in the future that maybe you could go over, if you're allowed to, if that maybe the viewers might be interested in knowing about?
I'm kind of working on one project now with kind of regarding a CRM, kind of a client relationship management system that is going to kind of using machine learning and kind of AI to be able to kind of help associate and empower clients to stay in touch with their individual clients, right? So if you're a real estate broker, you want to be able to make sure you have an enhanced relationship instead of just, I'm going to send a person a spam mail, right? So there's a technology. I'm trying not to give away too much of the details around it because it's still kind of, I haven't patented. So there's some things that it's exciting. I'm excited to kind of release this in due time, but it's going to kind of change how sales is done from a technology perspective.
Congratulations. That's so interesting. Do you have any projects that you would say you are most proud of that you've been a part of?
That's a good question. One of the ones, when I was working as the Chief Technology Officer for a real estate company here in the Northwest, it had over 100 offices across 4 states. And my job was to we realized that we needed to re-engineer, rebuild our software platform. It was an aging platform. That's something we need to do. We had our own data center in-house. We had, we had third-party vendors who were doing some of the software engineering and software services, and we wanted to kind of bring it all in-house and make it kind of what our vision was. And so that's something we did, and we dived into, and it was a multi-million-dollar endeavor and a multi-year project. And when we completed it, we were ranked number 3rd out of several hundred real estate sites from just a design and implementation perspective. So that was a pretty good reward, I think, pat on the back for my whole team for all that effort, and to prove that we could actually do it. So that was one of my favorite projects.
Yeah, that's really impressive. And just the fact that you can make all these amazing applications to kind of help other fields, and so it kind of helps others. Like real estate, I think, is transforming, and then you've got blockchain as well, and all these different technologies that I think are going to kind of reshape how you do transactions and everything. So that stuff I'm really interested in as well. So I think it's an amazing way to leverage technologies to kind of cut costs or be more efficient, and so that's pretty exciting what the future holds for that. So do you, in your own organization, or maybe some others that you know of or you're familiar with, are there any opportunities you could recommend for the audience to look at?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good question. And for my organization, there's not a whole lot. I mean, I know there's a lot of opportunities in software anywhere. I mean, it's limitless for how many companies out there are just really looking for good talent. And so I think I know a big field right now is business intelligence. That's huge. So be able to go through and understand and build systems around data, I think is really intriguing, and I think that's something that a lot of companies are really looking at right now. You mentioned blockchain. That's a pretty huge thing too, that a lot of folks are still trying to get their feet wet and realizing, okay, well, what can I apply this to in my business? It's not suitable for every business, but there's certain cases where it has a lot of value. And I think those are some really interesting, areas to go into. But from a company perspective, I know, in the Northwest, we have Microsoft and Amazon in our back door, so they're always looking for people.
So before we wrap up, do you have any pieces of advice for our audience?
Yeah, I think I kind of go back to, I think the big one is just, if you're going to get into engineering, and software engineering specifically, is to kind of get that focus and don't give up. I know it's easy to get distracted, and say distracted, like it's overwhelmed with everything that is there. And I'd say just pick a language, pick a framework, enjoy it, and dump it in both feet.
Do you have any routes that you suggest people take for like education or training?
Yeah, there's a lot of good sites. There's like Code Academy is a pretty popular one I hear a lot of folks using. There's a lot of cool gamification sites out there that really gamify learning, like LeetCode, and I've kind of jumped in a little bit. It's been kind of fun to hop in there and, kind of throw some cobwebs in my brain a little bit of how to do some of these things. There's some kind of fun challenges. They go all the way from very easy to very complex, and levels, degrees of also like just the, how you can learn how you kind of work together with other folks to solve a problem. It's kind of fun.
I'll have to try that out because, yeah, I know it definitely can be overwhelming. It's helped me a lot to have Justin as a cheerleader telling me how amazing this field is and how many job opportunities there are in it. But yeah, as far as straight learning how to code, that can be very overwhelming as well. So that's good
Totally.
to hear.
And the fact that you're gamifying a bit, I think really takes that edge off, and it can make it exciting and fun. And you have a little competition in there. And I think, when you're just reading white papers and you're going through tutorials and you're trying to do stuff, it can be really monotonous and hard. But you can kind of gamify it a bit and make it fun and exciting, and also kind of compare where you're at with other folks. I think it gives you, a little bit of more incentive and keeps you moving forward.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, how like they can make it fun now. And I guess another thing that's big that I think that we have a big opportunity to kind of exploit in this generation is, like, back in the day, we didn't have, like, people didn't have the internet with all this information, YouTube. But now we have YouTube and all these people that you can basically learn any language you want from the comfort of your home. And that's what I find which is so amazing, is that you can go on YouTube, you can go to different sites and just learn. I mean, a little bit of mentorship helps as well, but you have the ability to do it. But obviously having someone there kind of saying, like, learn this, get these basics down, and then like build from there. And I think that's one huge thing I see that is, like, especially during the quarantine, when people don't really know what to do. It's, hey, you got YouTube, you got Google, you got a lot of different things you can check out now to build your skills. And then when we're done with this whole thing, there's an opportunity that maybe you could get a job, maybe get yourself a entry-level position potentially.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's true. I like it.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on with us. We really appreciate it. We know that mentorship really does help, in just interviewing with us. We know that gives people one more example, one more person they can look to for how they've accomplished what they have in technology.
Thank you.
All right. well, we'll see you around. Thank you so much, Ruben Taylor. It's been good.
Thank you.
Thank you
so much. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.